Greg Burke is Senior Communications Advisor with the Vatican Secretariat of State. Good morning.
Good morning.
Two questions seem to be here. Number one is what are the debate about within the factions among the cardinals? Secondly, whether who's on what list and what short list. The first question, what is the dividing? What's the fight about between reform and tradition?
Well, certainly there's a media debate going on. How much that reflects the actual debate of the cardinals, we'll see. But I think it has been ongoing. In the sense that it's sort of like the military, you know, they're the guys near the flagpole, and then they're the guys out in the field. And the guys out in the field often think they know better how things are going. And so there's always some tension there. There's no doubt about that. I think part of this here has perhaps been exaggerated in that it makes it as if there are two big blocks. You know, there's Rome and the rest of the world. If that's really how it is, the rest of the world's going to win, okay? Because
they got the numbers.
They've got the numbers. They've got the numbers, and that's that. I think there's a lot of overlap in there. It comes out to a lot of issues we see, though, about transparency, accountability, responsibility, essentially. But I always come back to the terms. It's like all politics is local, all church is local too. I mean, the fact of the matter is this is of interest to us now because we're electing a pope. But for 95% of the Catholics out there, what they're interested in is how their parish and how their school works.
Well, there is the faction that favors reform, and they are said to be pushing for Cardinal Scola. Then the faction that favors the Vatican bureaucracy is reportedly pushing for the candidacy of Cardinal Scher of Brazil. I mean, how much division is there in the church?
Well, division or diversity of opinions, okay? Yeah. I mean, even like Cardinal Scher is a good example. You know, Cardinal Scher is a good example because he's somebody who's out there in the field, he's in Brazil, he's a pastor, but he's worked here in Rome. So he can sort of bridge the two. And when people are looking at candidates, I'm no longer allowed to talk names, which is too bad because I'm actually really good at it, okay, and handicapping people. But obviously, people are looking for somebody with both pieces of experience.
For the first time, we see two Americans' names being mentioned, Cardinal O'Malley and Cardinal Dolan. I mean, what's happened to bring them to the forefront? What's
happened is that the world has changed. The world has changed, and that the common thinking was always the U.S. is a superpower. How come an American is never the head of the United Nations? For that reason, you know, you're already a superpower. What, you want the United Nations as well? I think that's part of it. And the other part is they're two very interesting personalities who reflect the church in the United States.
Who might reflect the need of the Vatican now, too.
As well. No, I think it is interesting because the U.S., for all the problems the church has had, is a very vibrant church, and it's a very lively church. And anybody who sends their kids to Catholic schools knows that. And I think people in Europe are starting to see that. Not only the problems and the difficulties that sometimes the American church can bring, but also the many very positive signs it has.
We haven't had a non-European pope in 1,300 years, but we're talking about several Americans and a Brazilian. Greg Burke, thank you.
Thank you.